Welcome to Recently Logged. Now dig on this.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome for a second time to Recently
Well,
Logged.
hey, I didn't say welcome before. You said welcome.
Well, that's true.
But hi, everyone.
Hello.
We're back again. We've
we are.
returned.
We've returned yet again.
And this week we're talking. What are we talking about?
We're talking about another one of my favorite films. Last week we discussed The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, the 40th anniversary and whatnot.
We were gonna do an episode on Multiverse of Madness today. Which I thought was going to be funny because we did The Thing in the Multiverse of Madness, and I was like, wow, that's very Halloween themed for the middle of summer. But we had some last minute change of plans.
We
as
did.
Somebody requested to be on the episode with us for Multiverse of Madness.
Indeed. You can look forward to that next week.
So we changed our minds and quickly watched one of the other of like the 4 movies we watched yesterday.
Right. But today, since yesterday was Paul Thomas Anderson, famous director's birthday.
Famous director.
Since it was his birthday yesterday, we decided we would talk about one of his movies, and this week we're talking about Licorice Pizza, his most recent directorial work.
Yeah.
As of recording this. But yeah, it's like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. Paul Thomas Anderson is my favorite director. Go figure. But it's exciting.
Yeah. Do you want to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, so as we said just a couple of seconds ago, today we're talking about Licorice Pizza, a 2021 film, rated R, is 2 hours and 13 minutes. Its little IMDb description is the story of Alana Kane and Gary Valentine growing up, running around, and going through the treacherous navigation of first love in San Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
1973.
73, baby.
It was nominated for 3 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Achievement in Directing, and Best Original Screenplay.
It should have won something.
It won none of them.
It won nothing. How did it win nothing? It should have won Best Original Screenplay. I'll die on that hill.
Its cast features Alana Haim, Cooper Hoffman, Sean Penn, a lot of people. Bradley Cooper.
He's great in this.
The other Haim sisters, the entire Haim family.
I love that the whole Haim family is just in this. Very funny to me.
Directed and written by Paul Thomas Anderson, as we stated.
Love that guy.
I was gonna say score by Johnny Greenwood, but he does like one song for the whole movie.
I mean, he did do the score. There's just not very much of it.
And that is Licorice Pizza. Paul Thomas Anderson's most recent and maybe last film.
It really? Did he say he was going to retire?
Well, he said he was. I don't know.
Oh.
Who knows?
Okay. Who knows? If so, I'm very sad.
I thought I heard something about that, but I could be wrong.
He's still pumping out like classics in 2021. That's crazy. But anyway, yes, very good movie. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
All right, so I mentioned that this is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is currently sitting in my top 50.
Whoa!
What do you think of it though, Micah? I obviously like it a lot.
So I like it a lot. I do. It's very, very good. This was like my 3rd time watching it. I think, yeah, my 3rd time watching it.
Nice.
And I've liked it every time. The first time I kind of didn't know how I felt about it, and it's just kind of like grown in my mind since then. But it's a very interesting film. I will say. I don't think it's. I don't know. It's so weird. I'm glad we'll be able to talk about it because I gave it 5 stars, 5 out of 5. And there's not really anything I could think of that would be like I would change or anything like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of really weird stuff in it. So it'll be interesting to talk about.
I don't know. I feel like I'm a little biased towards it, like in a good way. But like this was the first movie I ever went and saw in a theater alone, so like I automatically loved it. I think I was destined to love it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's. I don't want to say it's gotten worse every time I watched it because that's not correct. I think my view on it has shifted every time I've seen it.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way. Like just the way I view it has shifted.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I really love it. I think just general stuff that I like about it. I really love the cinematography. I mean, who was the cinematographer on this? I know Paul Thomas Anderson was also credited, but I don't.
He's usually lately he's been the
yeah. I was about to say lately he's been like cinematographing. I don't know. I don't know the term.
Yeah, so cinematography by Paul Thomas Anderson and Michael Bauman.
Okay.
Which is his only cinematography.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I mean, if you're gonna start doing cinematography, this is a good start, man.
Apparently, he was director of photography on a couple of his films, though.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I really love the cinematography in this. I love the lighting in this. This is one of the best
this movie looks so good.
Yeah, this is like one of the best lit movies of 2021 and probably like just recent cinema. Like it looks amazing.
Just cinema, Robbie.
Yes. As I mentioned before, I think this should have won Best Original Screenplay. I think it works in a really interesting way, in a kind of unconventional way. Like you don't usually get movies like this nowadays. This is kind of like,
except for from PTA.
Yeah, I was about to say this is kind of like, I don't want to say it's not like that experimental, but it's just a hangout movie in a more genuine sense than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I don't know, because I haven't watched like that many of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. Yeah, I've only seen 3, and they're all recent ones. not any of his older
like late
work.
Career stuff.
But like Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the only people I've seen pull off film structure like this, and he uses film structure like this quite frequently.
Yeah,
he uses it to different effect, but he uses it quite frequently. It's all usually about like dynamics pushing and pulling throughout like a specifically plot driven space of time.
It's all of the events in the screenplay are like character driven, but they don't all like like if you wrote down the plot points of Licorice Pizza, you'd be like, what?
we'll take like Phantom Thread is the same way.
Yeah,
if you write down the plot lines of Phantom Thread, it's just them just kind of
just doing stuff
in there. Fashion.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like the plot of that's like most Paul Thomas Anderson. Actually, I think my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film, Punch Drunk Love, is one of his most plot driven movies.
Well, yes, and I don't know, because that's starting to get like slightly older.
Yeah,
so I don't know if his
that's
older
like
stuff,
early 2000s. Yeah,
I don't know if his older stuff is like that. I just know that like Licorice Pizza, Phantom Thread, and kind of to a decent extent There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, There Will Be Blood is a little more plot driven.
Yeah, I think because it's based off of a book, but it still does that very much not super just driving plot, very much just focusing on character shifts of dynamics.
Yeah, and man, they're just they're so interesting. It's so fun to watch.
No, it's a very unique way to write a screenplay specifically.
Yeah, and I haven't found another writer director who makes films like this, and that's part of the reason why his filmography has always been so special to me, is because it doesn't feel like much else that I've seen before.
Yeah,
it's so good. But yeah, I love the cinematography.
It's better though. Let's
get
that out of the way.
I don't know. I think they're like on the same level. I think technically, yes, Phantom Thread is probably a better film, but I like them both a lot.
But Robbie, Phantom Thread has the hungry boy.
That's true. That's very true.
I don't know. Phantom Thread is more my scene than this.
Yeah, it is.
But
yeah, I love the cinematography, love the screenplay. I love the performances in this too. Like I can't believe
the performances are so good.
I can't believe Alana has never been in like a movie before.
and Cooper has been in like
this was
TV.
Yeah, I was about to say this is his first movie.
This was his first movie,
which is crazy. But like I mean, obviously Alana has worked with Paul Thomas Anderson before. He's directed quite a few, I think like 2 or 3 Haim videos, like music videos. So they'd worked together before, but still, like this is unprecedented performance quality from 2 basically newcomers.
Yeah, it was both of their first movies, which is just like insane for the powerhouse performances they give from this.
Right.
Like, honestly, Alana as a character and as a performance in this is one of my favorite characters and performances just in recent times in general.
Right.
Like it's so good.
Man, she's so good in this. What else do I really love about this movie? I feel like
what else do I really
all of the
love
stuff
about this movie?
All of the stuff that I like want to pick out to like talk about this is like just technical stuff, but I don't know.
Ravioli loves it for its technology.
I really love the soundtrack too. Like, this is one of the few movies where
soundtrack over score, Ravi.
I was about to say,
it's one of those movies that does that.
I think this is one of the best like uses of that I've seen, because I honestly can't think of very many other movies that do this other than something like In the Mood for Love or something like that, where they don't have very much original music. Yeah. It's all just pre-recorded stuff. But this is good. Like, this is one of the best soundtracks to just like listen to even outside of the movie, and I think the songs all work really well even in the context of the movie.
I think a lot of what benefits that in general, take There Will Be Blood or Phantom Thread.
Phantom Thread scores.
They're on a very like grand or elegant scale.
Yeah.
So it plays to the same kind of rhythm, but it plays it with pretty much classical music. Like more classical than you'd get from a modern film score for both of those. So this one takes that same kind of idea in terms of rhythm and pacing of music, but uses it just with 70s songs. Like, it's literally the same kind of structuring of music use.
No, it is.
Which again is really impressive, and it works really well for setting the tone, especially of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to love with Licorice Pizza. Like, I know a lot of people didn't really like it that much, and I still am not sure why. I think possibly because it's not as plot driven as a lot of movies that came out around it.
I can't imagine mass audiences jiving with this very well.
I guess, but it's so good. It's such a good exploration of like a coming of age in a very literal sense.
Yeah, but there's a lot that plays into that. Some stuff that I even wanted to talk about later in terms of stuff that I think is just interesting. Which do you want to start kicking into questions instead of you just rambling on about all the things you love?
Yes,
like but wait, there's more. There's more.
Yes. Greg.
Okay, Greg is the best character. But yeah, do you have any questions to dive us a little deeper?
Shoot, I don't know. I assume you had one.
Oh, I do. I just usually toss the baton to you first to see if you had anything.
No.
But I was thinking about this one a lot not while we were watching the movie, because we didn't know we'd be recording while we were watching the movie, but after, when we decided we were doing this last night, I was thinking about this a lot. What is your favorite scene or sequence?
Oh man,
because that's tough with movies. That's tough with Paul Thomas Anderson.
I was about to say
that's
so hard with Paul Thomas Anderson.
Because didn't we talk about There Will Be Blood?
Yeah, we did an episode on There Will Be Blood. That was the season opener for this.
It's very hard to do that with stuff like this. Again, with the way Paul Thomas Anderson structures his films, this one a little bit less so, because it's not as flowy as There Will Be Blood. There's very clear.
It's like a Family Guy episode. It's like the story isn't very linear. No, the story isn't very linear, but like each little act has an arc in it. Kind of thing.
You're turning people off to the movie.
No,
they're not gonna watch it now. You've ruined it.
It's like an Odyssey film. Does that make any sense? It's like an Odyssey. But it's got very clearly defined sections, but it's not very. I don't know how to say it.
But anyway,
I don't know what I'm saying.
Do you have a favorite scene or sequence? A favorite section?
There's so many good ones. I feel like an obvious pick is the ending, like, because I think the final like running sequence and everything is really, really good.
I love you, Gary.
It's the the emotional payoff for the whole movie.
It's interesting that you say that, though, because one of the biggest complaints I heard from people was that they did not like the ending. They thought it was too rushed. They didn't think it worked.
I mean, I can see that, I guess, but like, I don't know. I personally really like it, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, like 90%, like even something like Schifferlis, I just pulled up his review on Letterboxd. Mm-hmm. He was like, he really, really liked it, but he didn't like the ending. He would have rather they had like an ambiguous ending or something.
I mean, that's fair, but like I don't know, it just makes emotional sense to me that right after like the wax stuff and stuff like that, like it makes sense for her to come rushing back to Gary.
Well,
like, I don't know.
no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think this ending works really well for what they're going for in the movie. I just think a lot of people don't really jive with what they're going for in the movie.
That's fair.
Because I think a lot of people view this as a very traditional romance story.
It's not.
But it's not on any level.
It's not a romance movie. I hate to break it to you.
It's really not a romance movie. Even though it centers around like a romance. But I mean, the romance is extremely questionable throughout the entire movie for many reasons.
Yes.
One of which being the age gap, which film TikTok freaked out about, which I think is funny.
That is kind of funny.
But the age gap is there for a reason, though, because it very much plays into that kind of thing. Because you say it's a coming of age film, and I think that's kind of interesting because I would probably describe this as like an anti-coming of age film.
Well, it's a coming of age film in a different sense than what most coming of age films are, because it's coming of age not only like as a teenager, obviously with Gary, who's like the whole dynamic between Gary and Alana, which is the like thesis of this movie, is Alana is like stuck being younger when she's older, obviously, and Gary is stuck being older when he's younger. That's the whole that's their whole dynamic. But like in the sense that it's a coming of age movie, it's a coming of age movie for Alana.
Yeah,
but it draws the wrong conclusion.
Well, because I think it plays in a lot to kind of what they were going for in that kind of feel. I feel like I'm sounding terrible here. That kind of feel of like, and it plays into the romance element in terms of stuff that kind of relationship that's sudden and quick and kind of not recommended and really not great.
Yeah.
And it plays into that kind of feeling of using that as kind of a like an allegory almost for growing up.
Yeah.
And I think that's really like interesting, and that's why they get together in the end, in my opinion. With the way they play that, it's not a super positive thing.
No.
That
I was about to say it's an unhealthy, as with most Paul Thomas
I was about
Anderson
to say,
films.
take again the ending of Phantom Thread.
It's the return to an unhealthy good feeling. Is the ending of the movie.
Chasing something that can't last.
Exactly.
That won't last, and that is not good.
Exactly, yeah. Which is why Punch Drunk Love is the best, because it's good.
Is it, Robbie? Is he chasing something good?
I would say
Riddle
so.
me that.
Micah, Punch Drunk Love is so good. That movie is so good. But yes, no, I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, but you gotta Uno reverse the question back over to me.
Yeah.
Because I have not answered.
I mean, I didn't technically give an answer. I don't really know what I would pick.
You said the ending.
I said the obvious pick would probably be the ending, which then you were like, that is not the obvious pick.
Well, no, I just said that's interesting because that is one of the things I've heard criticized most.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Mike?
I think, like, just viscerally off of like my straight slap me in the face asking me what my favorite scene would be, I'd probably honestly say the stretch kind of midway through the beginning.
Okay.
When Gary and Alana are first like kind of pushing back and forth against each other, like with all of like the Lance stuff and kind of the growing into I don't know, just the beginning kind of the dynamic.
I guess I could see that, yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a lot of where I feel like it's setting up its themes the best, and it really feels like the energy of the movie is working really well. The pacing is really great. It's really funny.
Right.
Did we talk about this? Is a really funny movie.
As with all Paul Thomas Anderson films, like no matter what they're billed as, they keep they keep turning into comedies whenever I watch them. I don't know if it's gonna be that way for stuff like Magnolia, but like Phantom Thread is so funny, and this is too. I hate to break it to you, but yeah.
No, that's probably my favorite stretch of the film in general.
Fair enough. I think fun shout out to the Sean Penn like sequence. That's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like really if you think about it, it really like the movie just breaks down into these weird disconnected bubbles that are very connected.
I was about to say, well, like I said, this is such a dynamic driven film that all it throws in, and it, like I mentioned, it's kind of like an Odyssey film, because basically the entire movie is just Alana and Gary interacting with all of these like different figures in their lives,
characters from the childhood of PTA.
Exactly, yeah, because you got like Sean Penn's character and Bradley Cooper's character and Lance.
Yeah, see, I feel like the problem with this film that a lot of people didn't like jive with it, is that I think it's a really deeply personal film to Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, this plays, I think,
would make sense.
Directly into how he felt growing up as a child.
Yeah.
And growing up in that area. And, like, I feel like that comes across a lot when you're watching the film and when he talks about the film. Like, he's like, I feel like if you just don't get it, then you just don't get it. Like, this is
yeah.
I feel like this film was made, like, solely for him.
Good. Every filmmaker should make films for themselves. That's my conclusion.
But I feel like that's almost to its downfall in certain ways in terms of communicating stuff well to the audience.
I guess. I don't know. I've never, any time that I've watched it, and I know like this is very subjective, but I've never had trouble like connecting emotionally or even like just intelligently with a scene or part of this movie.
The first time I watched this movie, I had no idea what to make of it. like we got out of theaters and I was like, I do not know if I even liked that.
And see, I know a lot of people were like that, but I walked out of the theater. I'm like, that might be my new favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I loved it so much, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. like, because it's so, I don't know.
It's a very odd movie.
It's shallow, but extremely in depth. And I think that kind of sums up what the movie is going for. But at the same time, it makes a viewing experience that can either be fantastic or terrible, just depending on how you engage with the movie.
Yeah.
What you draw from the movie, because it's very up in the air on what you can draw from it in general.
That is true, yeah. And see, my first experience with it, I think, is probably the best case scenario, like watching it by yourself and just having the chance to, like, kind of be lost in the world the same way the characters are.
Yeah.
Like, you're not quite sure what to make of, like, Sean Penn's character when he first comes onto screen. You're like, well, wait a minute. But, like, I don't know. I think, I don't know. I just love, like, all of the little moments in this, all of the fun little character moments and beats. And,
I agree. Yeah. But, like, it's just such an interesting film in my mind. Because at the same time, it feels like, to me, even though I love this movie and I gave it 5 stars and everything, there's something like deep inside while I'm watching the movie that feels like something doesn't click, but yet it really clicks.
That's fair.
Like it's kind of the way the entire movie feels with all of its different elements. They feel like they're like pulling and pushing against each other in a way that's like the film is about to fall apart into shambles, but yet it's working really well.
Yeah, I could see that. And no, it definitely has a very, like, I don't know, very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say stilted, a very, like, chunky kind of feel to it, if that makes any sense.
I would kind of say it's a little stilted. Not that its dialogue is stilted, but that the movie itself feels like slightly not in a bad way stilted.
No, not in a bad way. Like, it's kind of mesmerizing, like, as a movie.
Yeah, I described it every time I finished watching it as addictive. Like purely addictive, because like I'll finish the movie and be like, wow,
gotta watch it again.
That's interesting. And then like 2 minutes later I'll be like, man, I wish I was still watching that.
Yeah, right? No, the moment I finished it in the theater when I watched it for the first time, I was like, I gotta watch that again, man.
But again, maybe Paul Thomas Anderson is a genius, because all of these things that I'm talking about literally play into the themes of the movie.
Right?
maybe this movie is like on every level its themes.
Yeah, man, it's so good. And I'm just gonna keep saying it's so good.
Let's get into another question. I have a couple questions in the bank, but I'm gonna save one for closer to the end, because it's gonna be an interesting talking point. For this one, I want to ask, what do you think of the characters of like the movie, like the individual characters throughout?
What do you mean?
Because like when I watched this with Haley, one thing that she noted, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty much true. There's like not a single good person in this entire movie.
Hey.
even Alana makes like nothing but questionable decisions.
Oh no, I wasn't going to argue that Alana was a good person.
Gary, like Alana's the most likable person going on here, besides like random side characters.
Greg,
no, like I'm saying like out of the main focused characters.
Okay.
Like
that's fair.
There's
okay.
and I know a lot of people have commented on the fact that PTA has daddy issues,
as with all great directors.
and a lot of the things that go into this movie are the fact that there's like not a single good male like male example to Gary. But like, what do you think about the character of Gary Valentine and Alana Kane?
I don't know, man. Like they're so captivating because, as I mentioned, they're like these paradoxes of people. They're both trapped in a lifestyle that they can't thrive in, like they can't be healthy in.
Yeah.
And they both love it, which is crazy. But like I don't know, they're just really fun to watch because, as I mentioned, the performances are great.
Yeah.
As characters, I think because they're so well defined in what their wants and problems are, like the whole want versus need kind of thing, it's so like blatantly obvious what Gary needs and what Alana needs, but it's not what they want at all,
and it's not what the movie
gives them. It's not what the movie gives them. It just makes them so captivating to watch because you're like, no, this is not. Yeah, this is not right.
I don't know. Like this entire movie feels this way to me. I don't know how to describe it. They're barreling towards self-destruction, but it's like a barrel that you have to watch.
Exactly. You can't look away. It's like a car crash you can't look away from. You're like, this is gonna end so terribly.
But it's like it's so pleasant, and you almost half wish by the end of the movie that it could be something that could happen, even though it in itself is not something I would ever endorse.
Exactly.
Again, like the movie is like playing with you the entire time in terms of their relationship, into like pretty much manipulating you into wanting them to get together, even though it's a terrible decision.
No, I think Alana's character, especially, and I mean, I would argue that Alana is definitely the main character.
No, Alana's the main character.
But Alana is such a captivating portrait of like exiting teenagehood and not wanting to enter adulthood because she's still seeking like what's the word I'm thinking of, not just general affection but
acceptance.
Like acceptance
from like younger people,
from like children.
From teenagers.
The whole I don't need you to tell me I'm cool speech is like the epitome of what I'm talking about here.
Throughout the entire movie her character not only is set up as feeling like she has no purpose except for to be around people who like, think she's interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like wrestling with that the entire movie. The fact that every time she actually thinks about what she's doing with her life, she finds it kind of disgusting.
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
I love Alana. Like Paul Thomas Anderson's main characters are always so great.
No, there's a lot of my favorite scenes, like individual. I guess they're not, because that's the problem. They're not even like full on scenes, so I can't be like that's one of my favorite. But like moments in the film, or when it's like quiet moments with Alana and maybe like one of the sisters or something, and they're just like retrospective about what she's even doing with her life, why she's hanging out with a bunch of like 12-year-olds.
But yeah, I mean, just other than Gary, like Gary, interesting for the same reason. Well, not like the exact same reason, obviously, but interesting for the same reason because you just constantly see him reaching for some form of stability and success, even though he's only 15 years old.
Yeah, not only that though, his constant the Gary grind set.
Gary grind set, exactly. That's what the whole premise of the movie.
Again, it kind of plays around the fact that again, there's like no good examples of what Gary is even trying to be. Like every person that he runs into that's around him is either a terrible person that he looks up to,
right, or
a terrible person that he doesn't look up to.
Yeah.
Like take a Bradley Cooper's character, I forget his name.
Yeah, I can remember his name.
even though he's a real
He's
person.
a real person in real life.
Which a lot of the characters in this movie are.
Which is so weird to me. Like, I don't know.
But like, I was thinking about this yesterday when we watched it. I was like, in a lot of ways, I feel like his character is very similar to Gary. Like in an
Cooper?
in an abstract
Oh yeah,
sense.
no, I would say so. Actually, I would say he's the most similar
he's the
character
most
to
similar,
Gary.
and Gary is like disgusted by him.
Yeah.
Gary can't stand him.
Well, yeah.
Which again, I think is interesting to play into that. But even take was Jimmy or whatever his name was, like
who
the restaurant owner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Also based on a real person, which I wanted to talk about later.
Oh man.
But like. He does. I think the character of Gary. I've seen different people argue this through different ways. I think Gary does, as a character, look up to him.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
which is not a good thing. And he's kind of shooting for that version of success that isn't a real thing.
Yeah.
And again, Gary's father isn't mentioned in the entire movie, really.
Wonder why.
And he's not present at all. So he has all of these examples of people around him that he's looking for some sort of stability. I mean, his mom is barely even there. She's, again, for 90% of the film off in, like, Vegas or something. So it's just him and Grego.
Grego.
And I think, it plays into a really interestingly different dynamic to Alana, because Alana is very much like kind of going slow through life. And like you said, Gary is like speeding through. He's got to go at breakneck pace or it kind of falls apart.
I heard
the illusion of his life kind of disappears.
David Elric, very popular reviewer for those who don't know who he is. Most people, I was about to say, most people don't like his opinions in my circle, but I think he offers a really good insight. I really like his review for this movie.
I really like his review.
He said, I think he described Gary as like 15 going on 35. And I'm like, yes, that's like the entire thesis of Gary Valentine. But yeah, no, if we're talking not like Gary or Alana, though, I think all of the other side characters are just, they function mostly as just extensions or extreme caricatures.
Caricatures. Yeah, I was about to say, because that's one of the things I wanted to get to.
Of their characters.
Because I was about to say, like, 90% of the main plot side characters, like Bradley Cooper or Sean Penn or Benny Safdie, like, all of them play very interestingly into the dynamics.
I was about to say, they all represent different things that Gary and Alana are aspiring to be. And usually they're not healthy.
Yeah.
Which, man, this movie, it's just so captivating thematically. Like, you could pick apart all of the different stuff here, which is why I described it like an odyssey. You know?
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very, like, I don't know. It's so good, and I really love the film, but it is very, like, unique and weird.
Absolutely.
And the way it delivers all of its themes and moments and character beats, because, like I said, like, pretty much everything about this film kind of layers together into its themes, and that's really impressive.
Like I said, it should have won Best Screenplay.
Because it almost doesn't work, you know?
No, like you mentioned, it feels like if one thing went wrong on its screenplay, it would have just crumbled.
And again, that also plays into I don't know, it's very interesting. What do you think of the running scenes? What do you think those, like, because that's a common theme throughout. So you have Alana running to Gary when he's arrested. You have Gary running to Alana when she is thrown off the bike.
I don't know, because I mean, like, the running scenes are obviously very important. Like, that's how they end the movie. And it really just kind of, I would say, in my personal take on the film, I would say it kind of plays into what we were talking about earlier. They're both chasing something that they can't attain, which is why the running sequences are so, they're always like stylized. They always have the music blaring behind them. They're always very energetic and fast and aimless, I would say.
Yeah.
Because basically every time one of the running sequences happens, they're always chasing something they can't have.
Well, yeah, I was about to say they're chasing what they think the other person has.
Exactly.
What they think the other person will offer them. Because again, Alana thinks that Gary will offer her that acceptance and kind of coolness and like young feeling that she wants.
Yeah.
And Gary thinks Alana will essentially offer her age.
Yeah, exactly. The maturity and stuff, but neither of them have what they're chasing, that's my very basic like first year film student reading of the running sequences.
Well, no, I just think it's very interesting because those are like supercharged scenes. Like they're so like,
my goodness, man,
powerful scenes.
Shout out to the cinematographer.
They really stand out in my mind, but they're very interesting in terms of how they play, because I feel like every single thing just kind of plays into this very simple idea of throughout the film.
Yeah.
And it grows and it kind of wanes and it kind of shows through different lenses, but it's all kind of building towards the same conclusion. And then it kind of throws you into something that like, and I think that's what people kind of lose this film a little bit on. Not me personally, but like, again, the film is barreling towards a single conclusion that this is not good or healthy or works. But at the same time, it's kind of infecting you with how fun it is and how energetic all the performances are and how funny it is and how bright and colorful and amazing it looks. And it kind of throws you into this bundle and then quickly kicks it all out from under you by having them just finally end and run off.
Yeah, and I mean, the movie itself is kind of like a delusion, you know?
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. Like it like sucks you in and you're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then you realize like the whole time that the thing that the movie like the thing that all the characters want, it's never gonna happen, you know?
Yeah, and even when they run off and the credits roll,
man, I still can't believe people don't like the ending of this. It's so good. It just wraps it up. Like it summarizes the movie really well.
Maybe they just don't like the "I love you, Gary" a lot.
I love you, Gary.
I love you, Gary. It's the weirdest line delivery in the whole movie.
I love that.
And it's like overlaid over the scene.
I love that line delivery.
No, it's great. Do you have any questions before I get into that one question that I wanted to ask?
No, I would go ahead and get into it. We're running down the clock here,
we're
buddy.
running pretty long. What do you think of the more kind of icky elements of the film? Either the age gap romance, which some people I think we've talked about that well.
I don't know. I never viewed the age gap as like a problem, but
Robbie.
In the movie, in the context of the movie.
Yeah, because again, that's heavily dealing with its themes that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But like the interesting inclusion of like the racism in it, which was very present at the time. And some interesting characters of different kinds of characters, like even the assistant for Bradley Cooper's character. What's going on with that? Like, what do you think of these elements that rightfully so have gotten a lot of people uncomfortable by the movie?
What do you mean? Just like I thought you were saying like the more surreal elements of it.
No, like the elements that a lot of people think are
problematic by today's standards. I don't know. That brings up a whole discussion of whether media should depict unhealthy or like bad things. Like the whole you can't make a war movie without glorifying war and combat and stuff like that. That brings up a whole topic of discussion, like should cinema try and portray a ideal version of life, or should it do something else entirely?
And I think it's interesting because like the only heavy bit of racism you get in this movie is done around a real life person who is actually extremely racist. But
I have a very mixed feeling on that specifically because yes, I would defend its use in this movie. I'm like, yeah, it's a real person. Obviously, it really helps highlight in a very real way the problems with this man that Gary obviously looks up to.
Yeah, the elements that are really bad that he idolizes.
But really the cultural context that this is released under, like there's been more hate crimes and stuff towards just Asian people in general recently than like not ever, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a problem right now.
Yeah, no.
So I think if this was released, like, I don't know when a good time, like, just not now.
No, I think it's interesting in general because, again, I agree with what you're saying. Like, it plays into that unhealthy dynamic that it's kind of going for. But
I think
at the same
movie's
time,
justified in using it.
At the same time, I don't think it really comes off as great. Like, I'm always uncomfortable. I mean, you should be uncomfortable in those scenes. If you're not, oh boy. But, like, I'm uncomfortable in its inclusion in the film. Like,
exactly.
I think it could have worked without it. So I understand because Paul Thomas Anderson commented on it and pretty much said, like I said before, how he's commented with most of the film. He's like, if you don't understand what it's going for, then like what, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And I think that's clearly what it's going for because, like, again, Gary is literally in the background of the scene and like specifically shown as that. As like watching this encounter go on for every time that he does these insanely racist
horribly
things.
Racist things.
But I just don't, like, I don't know. It is one part of the film that really kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would argue on a fundamental level that people should be able to put whatever they want in a movie. just for the sake of filmmaking on the whole. I don't think people should police what people put in movies. I think they should definitely criticize if they're endorsing the ideals presented, obviously.
Yeah.
The classic Scorsese gangster thing. I endorse the actions of every character in my movie. Like, obviously, I think if you don't acknowledge that, you're sucking out a lot of the subtlety in film analysis and film criticism on the whole.
I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying with this is this is not a film that tackles the racism of the 70s.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't tackle anything of the harm that it does to any of the actual two Asian characters in the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. I think its depiction is justified, but I wish that it commented more on the problems it's bringing up. Like, the age gap obviously is a bad idea and not good and illegal.
I think it just kind of uses it, which I think is my biggest. It doesn't use it for like anything to actually do with it. It just uses it.
Yeah,
and that's what
it uses it to illustrate something rather than it doesn't really comment on it as a thing. It's just like, oh, we're going to use this to illustrate something.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that kind of bothers me about its use. Again, it doesn't detract too much from the film because I think it's clearly what they're going for is for you to be extremely uncomfortable.
Right?
Like, I mean, come on. If you're not uncomfortable, get some help.
You might be a little racist.
You might be a lot racist.
You might be a lot racist.
But it's still at the same time kind of makes me kind of feel icky because it's using it specifically just for the fact to be like, oh, look at Gary looking up to the wrong people instead of doing anything with that.
No, I can see that. I mentioned before, I think they should be able to depict whatever they want in movies.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Yeah, no, I was gonna add a but. I think anyone who chooses to include something that's very hateful or just very regressive and bad, obviously, should be very careful where they tread, because there's a very good chance that someone will misinterpret it or something, like, and obviously that's going to happen no matter what, but I don't know. I wish Licorice Pizza would bring up stuff like this and have more to say on it than just like, oh, this is bad, right?
Yeah, like I wish it either like brought it up more or didn't use it at all, because it doesn't, like, the racism doesn't play into the thing. And again,
this movie doesn't really touch on racism
at the time that it's going for. The white kids in LA wouldn't have even cared. Again, they wouldn't have even noticed. They would have done like nothing. So I don't see how it plays into anything going into that, again, other than the fact that it's communicating to the audience that he's looking up to the wrong people.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird tightrope kind of thing. It's not really like a loss, but it's not really a win.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird. I don't know.
I don't like its inclusion. I would rather it wasn't there.
Yeah, I guess I would probably agree.
That's one of the only things in the whole movie that I would just actually change.
That's fair.
Because I think in the way it's presented, it's not doing enough to not say that, like, to say that it's actually fully justified as an inclusion, even though it's justified to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's justified in the fact to present that kind of thing without doing anything with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't like. I don't think it's as big of a problem as you do. Obviously,
I mean,
but...
I still gave the movie 5 stars. I still think it doesn't. I don't think it detracts because, again, it is what the movie is going for in terms of making you uncomfortable and showing it as a problem.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I wish it did it differently.
That's fair. Yeah. But that was the big question.
That was the question I was saving for because I was curious on how the discussion would go on it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I didn't really say much of anything. But yeah, no, Licorice Pizza in the end, the conclusion. It's a very interesting movie.
Yeah. It's one that's hard to define, which is why we've kind of been rambling around this episode.
Yeah.
It's hard to fit into a little box of a film because it's so unique as a film in itself.
Yeah.
And where almost every element of the film, even on its production and pacing level, play into the themes that kind of feel extremely deeply personal to almost a weird level for Paul Thomas Anderson.
Right. Yeah.
Again, like my mom says every time we watch a PTA movie, I fear for his childhood.
Right. Yeah. PTA. If you're not going to a therapist already, go to a therapist. is my recommendation.
So it's just a very interesting and addictive and fun and troublesome and interesting and beautiful movie.
Yeah. Movie of the year, I would argue. I would argue the best film of 2021 that I've seen.
I don't remember what I qualified as the best film of 2021.
It's so good.
I still think I might like Tragedy of Macbeth more than it.
Oh yeah, that Tragedy of Macbeth. I have Swan Song at number 2 actually, which is interesting because I would assume you'd put West Side Story maybe at number 1.
Here, hold on. I was gonna pull up what was that year because I didn't remember what all came out that year.
Man, Old was that year. Pig was that year. Nightmare Alley. 2021 was stacked.
Man.
Those movies
Dune,
are so good.
Rebby, Dune.
Dune is amazing. What?
Yeah, my top of 2021's, like I have 6 5-stars.
Yeah.
Dune, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, Pig, and Tragedy of Macbeth.
All great. I mean, that's pretty much my top 8. Old is up there too. But yeah, no, man. I love Licorice Pizza.
Good year for cinema. People are like, cinema doesn't happen anymore. You're wrong.
Did you guys go see Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza? But yeah, no. I mean, I exited the theater of this movie and I was like, I'm going to stick that in my top 50. How about that?
I don't know, because it's interesting because most people I've talked to, even Haley, when I watched this with her, most people have exited the movie with that kind of, I don't know what to make of that feeling.
I don't know, man. I think it probably has something to do with where I am in my life. It speaks to me in a very real way because I'm transitioning out of teenagehood at the moment.
You're out of the teenage years.
You're no longer
a teenager.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think Licorice Pizza came at the right time for me.
No, that's good.
Good movie. But yeah.
That's really all I have to say about it. Check it out. Form your own opinions on this one. This one's definitely one that
weird
I think
movie.
it needs to be viewed under a more like different lenses and different perspectives.
I was about to say this is a good film school movie because you can look at it through a lot of different lenses. You can look at it culturally, like now when it was released. You can look at it as a period piece, which it's a very interesting period piece too.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even talk about the fact that
didn't.
Set in the 70s and the way it interacts with the culture of that is really interesting and cool. But yeah, you can view it under so many lenses, and it's kind of a fascinating movie. I like it a lot.
So definitely go check it out because I mean we're 2 people who actually share pretty similar opinions.
Yeah, I was about to say we have very similar tastes in art and stuff. So
I suppose being brothers growing up watching the same stuff will do that to you.
Yeah.
But go watch this. Go listen to other people who have different voices on this. For especially the racism stuff, I would find actual Asian people.
I was about to say, instead of just like the most basic white guys on earth,
to hear what they have to say about the movie, because I've watched several different things from different cultures talking about how they feel about this movie, and it's very interesting the way different people will break it down.
Yeah,
because again,
it's an interesting movie.
This is the kind of movie that you can take a million different ways. So
yeah.
Check it out.
Cool movie. If you're old enough to watch it, as we mentioned, it is rated R. If you're old enough to see it, I recommend it. It's good.
Definitely.
But yeah, let's move the podcast along and talk about what else we watched.
What else we watched this week. All right, so for those of you who do not know or are new to the podcast, the What We Watched segment is you're supposed to be tiny little section at the end where our dog barks. No.
I don't think you can really hear it.
I don't think you can hear it. Where we talk about all of the movies that we've watched since our last episode. Usually pretty briefly, we just say our ratings and a couple brief thoughts about them.
Yeah.
We are starting from the 20th.
The 20th.
Or rather the 21st, unless you have something. So yeah, the 20th. So let's kick off because we've been going on for already a while.
Yeah.
Go for it.
On the 20th, I took out my library card and I checked out a DVD copy of All About Eve, which I found out was one of the highest rated films on Letterboxd, which I think is earned, honestly. It was great. I loved it. The performances are incredible. The screenplay is amazing. Stone cold masterpiece, man. The 50s are kind of unmatched as like a decade of film. But yeah, All About Eve, I gave it a 10 out of 10, 5 stars, baby.
Then on the 21st, I watched Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost.
Of course.
Another one of the Jim Sundstrom run of Scooby-Doo films.
Stone cold masterpiece.
It was really good. I really loved it. It's probably my second favorite Scooby-Doo film now, behind Zombie Island, another Jim Sundstrom one.
Zombie Island's great, man.
It's got so much of a darker tone than most Scooby-Doo films, and it takes itself like weirdly like not serious but seriously. Like it balances its tone so well. Its villain is really cool. Tim Curry gives an outstanding performance.
Tim Curry.
I love his performance in this. The animation looks great. It's super Halloween-y. It's probably one of the most like Halloween feeling of any of the Scooby-Doo movies.
Nice.
It's really well written and paced, and I don't know. It's really, really good. I give it a 4.5.
Nice. On the 21st, I watched a little movie called The One, which is a 2001 action film. I wanted to try and watch more multiverse movies, given the popularity of Multiverse of Madness and, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was like, you know what? I should visit some other multiverse movies. So I found this one, and it was pretty good.
A James Wong movie, Remy.
Yeah, no, my first James Wong movie. I really want to see Final Destination. But this is an interesting introduction to his work. Because I know a lot of people don't think it's that great. I think it's a lot of fun just as an action movie. And I think I said in my review, I said, yeah, it's definitely fun, but it doesn't have anything really pushing it past that. Like it's got a cool premise, cool action, fun performances, and that's it. Like that's the whole movie. Everything else ranges from bad to mediocre to just fine, But I gave it a 3.5. I thought it was fun.
Then also on the 21st, we watched Dreams by Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah,
on
baby.
my Criterion.
Akira Kurosawa. Everyone loves Akira Kurosawa.
I love Dreams. I love Dreams. Let's talk about it. It's so good.
Dreams is fantastic. I think every director that I like should be required to make a movie like Dreams. Call me crazy.
Dreams is probably one of my favorite films right now.
Fair enough.
This is really my kind of filmmaking, honestly, though.
Yeah.
I really love just kind of slow, subtle, very atmospheric filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I think this
is a very understated movie.
Yeah, this really hit a strong chord with me. It makes me really emotional. I almost cried like through 90% of it both times I've watched it now. And I don't even know why.
It feels like a borderline spiritual experience watching this, man.
Right.
Good stuff.
I love it. 5 stars. Beautiful movie.
I said that it's kind of enthralling to see someone who's mastered their craft like Kurosawa has just make like a bunch of short, like basically an anthology film about their dreams. Like,
yeah,
just seeing someone who has such a inherent mastery of film as a medium. Like they just understand how to use it correctly. I don't know. It's great.
And I understand some criticisms of it because
absolutely.
it's very repetitive in certain ways, but I don't care.
My favorite segments were the Blizzard and Mount Fuji in red. Those were both really good.
The Blizzard, the Crow.
Oh yeah, that is good too.
What is the village one is one of my favorites.
Yeah, but yeah, I gave it a 4.5. Loved it. Great stuff.
Then that night, deep into the night, we did our Criterion double feature, and we watched True Stories.
Well, you see, Dreams is one of Micah's favorite movies that he just started watching, and True Stories is one of my favorite movies that he just started watching. So we had to exchange criterions. But yeah, True Stories, David Byrne's directorial debut, I believe, is only movie. I think. Yeah, I guess his only feature length film. In that sense. But yeah, no, very good. True Stories.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I really liked the direction, actually.
It's such a cool movie.
There's so much to really love about this movie.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like for me, it didn't work as well as I would have liked because it feels like it's really lacking substance overall. Like by the end of the movie, it felt like it was just a couple things doing a couple things. Like it had no oomph behind it, which I was really hoping is what it would build towards, because the sequences, the scenes, they're funny, they're good, they're energetic, the performances are great, it's colorful.
I did not expect David Byrne to be such a good director. This movie has such like a well-defined direction and tone to it.
Yeah, I mean, when it's especially, and I mean, David Byrne has always been good at this, but when it uses its like propaganda stuff too, that's so good. I love those scenes.
I said it's basically a Talking Heads album as a movie, which I mean that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
But I think that it's great.
I just wish it had more meat on its bone.
Yeah.
But I gave it a 4.5 nevertheless.
I gave it a 5. This is my second time watching it, baby. Gotta love it.
Then on the 22nd, I watched Scooby-Doo Shaggy Showdown.
Nice.
This is one of the later Scooby-Doo movies I wanted to watch. I didn't want to watch this one that much, but I want to watch all of Scooby-Doo film. I just heard it wasn't very good, and lo and behold, it was not very good. It wasn't very funny. It feels like kind of weirdly racist in some ways. Like there's
not racist Scooby-Doo.
There's some weird stuff in it that I'm just like, why is this here?
Why? What?
It hates goth girls for some reason too. It's just
kind of funny.
And like somehow it drops the ball on the absolutely insanely good premise of Shaggy takes the gang to meet his relatives, of which his great grandfather, I think, if I remember correctly, is a famous outlaw who is now a ghost, and
that's such a good premise.
They look exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's so cool, and yet it's terrible.
Aw.
I gave it 2 stars.
All right. On the 22nd, I watched Hannibal Buress live from Chicago, which was a pretty good stand-up special. I had listened to it like 15 times, so I finally watched it for the first time, and his delivery. Very good. Big hot take. Hannibal Buress, funny guy.
Well, Revy,
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
That's a bit controversial. I don't know if you could say that.
It's funny.
Then on the 23rd, I watched Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, another Jim Sundstrom movie. Actually, that was the last one that I hadn't seen. I've now seen 100% of Jim Sundstrom's filmography.
Nice. He completed his work.
He did 4 films.
He did 4 movies.
This one is kind of on a similar level to Cyber Chase. It's good, but it's not like the greatest. Like it's a perfectly great Scooby-Doo movie.
There you go.
It's fun, it's funny, it's got great animation, it's got fun set pieces, side characters. It's just everything that you would want from a Scooby-Doo movie. I do want to say though, and I forgot to mention this on my Witch's Ghost one, because the Witch's Ghost more so than this one. I mean, most Scooby-Doo movies have Japanese animation influences, and these were specifically done by a Japanese animation studio. But Witch's Ghost half the time literally just looks like Lupin the Third.
Good. Lupin the Third looks great.
Like it's so funny, especially the villain. He just looks like a Lupin the Third character.
Nice.
It's really it's great. I love it. But yeah, this one wasn't the most interesting premise. I've never been a huge fan of like aliens in the desert stuff, but it was still really good and really funny.
All right.
I give it 3.5.
Quick shout out. It's not like a feature length. It's just a short film. But I watched A Day in Ghana with Kendrick Lamar, which should have been about 2 hours longer.
It needs to be an actual documentary, man.
Yeah, no, but like it was just a fun little video. I thought I would mention it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Then on the 24th, we gathered around the old television
Set,
and we tuned it in to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yeah, baby.
I was sick and could barely comprehend watching the movie, so I don't have too much to say on it. I mean,
it's a very easy to dissect movie. It's
got great set pieces. That's what I'll say. Yeah, it's got a great opening, but I just really couldn't get into it because of how bad I was feeling.
I think I summarized it pretty well in my review. I said I think it's the weakest of the original like Indiana Jones trilogy, but Spielberg is still just like such a master of directing action and action set pieces and stuff that like it's almost impossible not to love. You know, I love it, man. It's it's quickly becoming one of my favorite Spielberg movies.
I gave it a 3.5.
I gave it a 4.5.
Then on the 25th, I watched Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf.
Ayo.
This is one of the
very
oldest,
old movie.
one of the oldest Scooby-Doo movies out
there.
Because they started the Scooby-Doo movies in the late 70s, and this one was done
so old.
in 88.
Man.
But this is the Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and Scrappy universe. The one what is that one called?
I don't remember. The one where Shaggy has a red shirt.
I think it's just Scooby and Scrappy or something like that is the name of the show. I don't remember, but it's that universe, which is my first interaction with that universe. I've never seen Scrappy in anything outside of the 2002 live action.
He is
one.
Briefly featured in.
But he's exactly the same. It's crazy. I don't know. Breadsword's insane for this. He was getting on to the live action's portrayal of Scrappy, but like he's the exact same. The live action one just does it in a more hateful way.
I feel like I need to watch like the old Scrappy content because he seems like such an interesting character.
No, he is. He's so fun, and that's what I was gonna say. I put it pretty briefly into my review here. The good stuff about this, Scooby, Scrappy, and Shaggy work really well together. Yeah. They're so much fun to watch. The animation in this movie is really fun, and there's a fun bit reoccurring where their car just does pretty much anything they need it to.
Nice.
But outside of that, it's pretty bad. Mainly because it doesn't focus on the three of them hardly at all. Like it uses them as just a bridge to get to weird monster shenanigans. Like the entire thing plays around a monster race in which the entire plot is Dracula like turns Shaggy into a werewolf to where they have a werewolf to where they can do the race because the other werewolf retired, but then he doesn't want him to do the race at all. Like he doesn't want him to do well. Yeah, so the entire thing is like first him turning Shaggy into a werewolf, kidnapping Shaggy and gang, and then convincing him to join this race. And then after he convinces him to join the race, the entire rest of the movie is just him trying to stop him from completing the race. It's really boring, it's really tedious, and it's not funny, and the side characters suck.
It's not funny, and the side characters...
Which really is disappointing because I loved watching Scooby, Scrappy, and Shaggy.
I was about to say, I watched, obviously without any sound, but I saw like some of the animation and stuff from this movie, and it looked like a lot of fun.
It just doesn't work, and it makes me sad. I gave it 2 stars. Then also on the 25th, I watched The Tragedy of Macbeth again.
Very good movie.
Love this movie. So freaking good. One of my favorite movies. I love Shakespeare. I love the way that this is done. The performances are outstanding. I hate that people don't like this movie as much as I do. I give it 5 stars. Also on the 25th, I watched Black Orpheus.
Nice.
50s French Brazilian film. Very
sounds good.
Very weird. Very interesting. I like a lot of its elements. It's a really, really fun, engaging, relaxing, and kind of dream-esque film. And when it gets to be more bizarre and kind of metaphorical almost, I think is when it really shines towards the end of the movie during its like creepy sequences. It's really, really cool.
Nice.
But I also really, really don't like the way it sexualizes like every adult character. I thought it was just going to be really weird towards the women, and then it was really weird towards the men, and I think it's more just a creepy thing towards the Brazilian people.
That makes sense. I was about to say, I wonder why it's not more like gender based, but did a French director make this?
Made this.
That
a
makes
white
more
French
sense.
director made this. And again, that's why I say it's a really kind of hard one to dissect, because the filmmaking is really good and I really like what it's doing, but at the same time I really understand why a lot of Brazilians don't like this movie.
I was about to say, that's a little, I haven't seen it obviously, but like that, a French director doing a film about Brazilian people and their culture, like in, what was this, the 50s?
The 50s.
Yeah, I could see that going very bad.
And like, dude, it really sexualizes every adult character in the movie, and I'm like, oh, but why? That's creepy.
Stop doing that, please.
But yeah, it was like, so it's a struggle, because again, it's also based off of one of my favorite like myths and everything, and I think it's a really cool adaptation of that. And I think the performances are really, really great. So it's just a big old ball of I don't know what to make of it fully. And I gave it 4 stars.
Fair enough.
Then on the 26th, Rebby, what did we watch?
We watched Frank Darabont's film The Mist, 2007, baby.
2007, The Mist, from the director of The Shawshank Redemption.
Fun movie. Cool movie. I liked it a lot.
I don't have too much to say on it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I thought it was a very interesting time politically to be watching this movie.
Right. I don't know. It's interesting. I mentioned in my review that it reminds me a lot of The Circle, which is a 2015 film, in the fact that it's really just sci-fi as and an apocalypse situation as an exploration of other social problems, obviously. But I think The Mist does it really well. I love it.
I really love its horror sequences.
Its horror stuff is so much fun.
I really like its use of character work and everything throughout the thing. I like the way it plays with its themes and everything like that. Its ending is like insanely like, I can't believe they reached for that ending.
I think it works pretty well.
No, I think it works well. I just think it's insane that they actually...
It's kind of an unhinged choice.
Yeah, that they went for that. I would say that I wish it was a little tighter on a screenplay level. It gets kind of boring towards the middle for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
It just feels like it needs more oomph.
I think it needs another element to like kind of stir things up a little, because it gets kind of samey around the middle, but...
Something very similar to this that I think pulls it off a little bit better is Midnight Mass.
That's not a bad comparison. Obviously a much larger scale.
Yeah, I was
story,
about to say, but it's 7 hours.
Yeah.
So it has a little bit more time.
A little bit more time to parse things out.
I gave it 3.5.
I gave it a 4.
Then we watched Licorice Pizza, which we just discussed.
Both gave it a 5,
stars,
baby.
And then afterwards, to prepare for what was supposed to be this episode, we watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, it finally came on streaming, baby.
This was a rewatch. We watched it in theaters.
I loved it even more second time, man.
I still liked it. Not my favorite thing in the world. It's a very mixed bag. In my opinion. I gave it a 3.5 as well.
I gave it a 4.5.
A whole star difference. I guess we'll have something to look forward to, as the person who we're getting on the podcast to do the Multiverse of Madness episode also really loves it. So it's gonna be them praising it and me being like, but also this. So that'll be an interesting episode.
Yeah.
So you have that to look forward to. But that's what we watched this week.
That's what we watched. Happy birthday, Paul Thomas Anderson, and happy birthday, Yossi.
Yeah.
Friend of the podcast.
So they share a birthday.
Very
cool. He got to see a screening of an Indiana Jones movie with Spielberg and Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Which Indiana Jones movie?
I think it was Raiders.
Probably Raiders.
But with Spielberg,
how cool is that,
Mr. Steven
man?
Spielberg and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Patrick Willems was in the theater.
Patrick Willems in the theater.
He claims that Bill Hader might have been there, but he's not entirely sure. So I guess he's really living it up in New York.
I was about to say, happy birthday to Yossi, happy birthday to Paul Thomas Anderson, and go watch some good movies.
Go watch some good movies. Go watch Licorice Pizza. Go watch Tragedy of Macbeth.
Go watch Dreams.
Go watch Dreams.
Go watch All About Eve too.
Go watch a bunch of Scooby-Doo films.
Go watch Scooby-Doo movies.
Do it.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Alrighty, yeah.